Today is June 2nd, and I'm going to go ahead and do a garden tour. We are well into the season now. Things are starting to kind of look like it, but overall, I'm really happy with where we're at and where we're headed.
For all time's sake. As time goes by. It's been a long time. Some of the old songs.
So earlier today, I filmed an entire garden tour, and I ended up just not liking it very much. I feel like I don't need to film a tour for you guys. You've seen everything that's growing multiple times over. Instead, I think I just want to go ahead and give you guys somewhat of a recap of how this spring went for me, and also talk a little bit about my summer garden plans moving forward. The main thing I want to talk about is the powdery mildew issue that pretty much took over all of my cucurbit family plants. And it started with the zucchini plants, and it ended up just spreading like fire to all my other plants. And this is very common in our area, but I think also with the particular weather we've been having this year, it's been really rampant. And I've talked to other gardeners in my area, and it definitely is the time for us to be seeing a lot of that on all of our plants. Initially, I did attempt to rectify the issue, but eventually I just kind of gave up and allowed the disease to take over. I have some melons that I'm just waiting for them to ripen before I pull these plants out. But it's going to be very, very soon that I plan to take these out. I'm probably going to leave this particular melon plant because it has a really good resistance to powdery mildew and has shown like zero signs of it. So I'm thinking it should be okay. But even if you look here, all of these cucumbers and even the Armenian cucumbers, they are really getting eaten up by it. So I'm pretty much just gonna let the few fruit that are here mature and then take the plants out. It's a little bittersweet because I love seeing that trellis nice and full. But one thing I definitely learned from this experience is how I want to use these trellises going forward. And I mean, you can see here that I've already planted some cherry tomatoes here at the base. Another thing that I feel like I learned through this, particularly growing my tomato plants on a single stem and up a stake, is that I really don't like that method for cherry tomatoes, and I'm going to show you why. Here's my sun gold cherry tomato plant, and as you can see, I was not able to keep it to just the one stem. It's all the way out here, and I realized earlier on that I was getting less fruit by restricting it to one stem. But not only that, the plants like outgrew the stake significantly fast. I actually kind of ran into the same thing here with the green zebra, which is like a saladette type size. So I'm finding that I actually prefer to grow just the larger type varieties on the single stem because they don't outgrow the stakes so quickly. Going forward, I believe I'm just gonna grow cherry tomatoes back there on this arch instead of the cucumbers or melons. I'm actually not sure if I will ever grow melons on this type of trellising system again, just because I would rather fit more tomato plants in my space than I allotted for originally this year. I actually ended up changing this bed up. This is all indeterminate compact type tomato plants. I realized that I didn't really allot for very many processing type tomatoes, and I regret that, but I've learned my lesson and I went ahead and planted some in here. It's actually quite a few of these plants are starting to show some stress because of the heat coming in, and that kind of brings me to my next big change I'm gonna make in the summer. Oh, I wanted to show you guys these too. I went ahead and planted my zucchini in these grow bags, and I think that's actually going to be my method of sowing squash and zucchini going forward, just because they really are space hoggers. They take up an entire bed that I could dedicate to something else, like bush beans or okra or tomatoes. So I think that keeping them in these grow bags is actually going to really help me utilize this space a lot more. As you all know, we installed these posts here so that we could hang string lights, and that's still definitely the plan, but because of the heat that we have and my desire to grow certain things and extend our growing season, I think for these hot months that are coming up, we are going to use these posts to hang a giant shade cloth over the entire garden, and that's really going to help keep my tomatoes going longer and get me further into the season, into fall, where I can keep growing them pretty much until we get a first frost. And I think that we'll end up taking the shade cloth down in the fall when things cool down, and then we'll end up hanging our lights. And because it'll be like nice and cool in the fall, we can just come and sit out here and actually enjoy the lights versus, you know, trying to enjoy them on 85-degree night here in zone 9A. Before I wrap this video up, I want to show you this Crackerjack Marigold plant that is just absolutely massive. I planted it here and I did not realize how big it was going to get. It's probably at least 3.5 feet tall. It's just humongous. It's overshadowing these pepper plants beneath, which I'm totally fine with. It's stunning, it's beautiful, and it smells great. I just had to show that though, because I also planted another one here, not knowing quite so much that it's going to get massive. But yeah, I'm super pleased with what I've gotten out of the spring garden. I've learned quite a bit, especially about spacing for my cucumber plants, how many cucumber plants I want to grow in the future, because I got tons and tons of cucumbers and I didn't know what to do with them. I learned a little bit more how I feel about growing melons on a trellis like this. I learned somewhat about certain varieties I'm enjoying and some that I'm just not really enjoying that much. So I know not to give them space in the garden anymore. This is all just a learning and growing experience. And I'm going to keep documenting the journey just so you guys can see and maybe even learn from some of my mistakes, or see what works for you versus what doesn't work for you. So I hope you stick around, and I will definitely be updating again, probably in a couple months whenever we are well into the summer and the heat. Y'all take care.